All right, let me finish. Estimating the mean of group data. Clearly, when you put continuous numerical data into class intervals, you lose information, as the actual data are not known anymore. I just know I've got a bunch of numbers between 5 and 10. I don't know what they are anymore. So that means if I've lost the information about the actual data, I cannot find the exact mean. Because the only way to find the exact mean is to add all the data values together and divide by how many there were. If all I know was there was 5 numbers between 5 and 10, could all those numbers possibly be 6? Could there be a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9? You don't know that. You've lost that because you chucked it into a class interval. So the way that you handle this is to estimate the mean of data grouped into class intervals. Use the midpoint of the class interval that represents the whole interval itself. You make a product column for the midpoint times by the frequency. And then step 3, the products let you estimate the total of all data values, which you can divide by the total frequency. And that estimates the average of the data set. If your data is grouped into class intervals like this, you will never find the real mean. You can only get an estimate of it. Because here, what's the frequency that the data says there was data between 50 and 100? Happened 10 times. Okay? But do I know how many 51s or 52s or 53s were in here? I have no idea. So you're never going to find the exact mean. You're just going to guess it. So can you please get those 3 steps down? This example and that table. And then I'm going to show you how to estimate the average if your data looks like this. And then I'll shut my mouth. And then I'd encourage you to practice this some more titration practice. And I'd like to sit down with the people that are away on Wednesday to go through what they miss. Because you'll start your practical next week. You're laying some groundwork today. Let's do the example so I can have a little chat with you about the little vote that I'd like to run. Transport department collected daily tram travel distances in the table. Estimate the average distance travelled by the trams. We notice that the data is in class intervals, so I'm never going to get the actual average distance. I'm going to get an estimate of it. So following the steps, you use the midpoint of the class intervals to represent the class itself. So what would the midpoint of 50 to 100 be? 75. If you're ever not sure, find the average of the 2 extreme numbers. 100 plus 50 is 150 divided by 2, 75. So that number, the midpoint, is going to represent that class interval. Midpoint of 100 to 150. Next. 2, 2, 5. So step 2, make a product column for the midpoint, x frequency of each interval. So I'm going to do this just so it's quick by hand. This is probably freaking out our other iPad user here. Why didn't you do it straight? I don't have time. Product 10 times by 75 is 750 is the product of the first class interval. 15 times by 125. Now I can't do it in my head. So I'll grab my 125 times 15, 1875. 175 times by 16, 2800. And 225 times by 9, 2025 is what I get. So the total, so we need to have totals for both of these columns. 10 plus 15 plus 16 plus 9, that was 50 days, total frequency. And then add up those giant numbers, 750, 1875, 2800, 2025. Right, so the formula of the mean is the total sum of data over number of data. This 7450 is our estimate of the total. The number of data was 50. 7450 divided by 50. We estimate 149 kilometers was around the average, which seems about right because that's on the higher end of this class interval. And you're saying, well, Mr. T, that class interval is below halfway. Yes, I agree, but there's sort of a skew of more data here. It's going to be around halfway. Okay? Did you have a question about? So the writing's pretty bad because it's slippery. Okay? So I think your homework was 13C2, just